welcome back to the podcast in our little Hot Mystic summer series for July. So last week we really talked about loving yourself, and I hope you have started to integrate some of those things into your day-to-day and really starting to cultivate that awareness of where you're at now and just meeting yourself at where you are now. If you didn't get a chance to listen, I highly recommend to go back and take a listen. And today we are going to talk about honoring your decisions, as your hot mystic self is very intuitive. You're listening to this, you are very intuitive. You probably know most of the time what your soul really needs and wants you to do. We are very, very conditioned to people please, to make sure that everyone around us is happy, and trying to make decisions based on how is this going to affect them? How is this going to affect her? How is this going to affect all these other people in my life? If I make this decision, which is big and scary for me, how is that going to affect everyone else in my life? And I just wanted to share a couple stories from my own life and how shifting away from what everyone else is going to think or asking outward for opinion excessively. I say that because there is a human design inner authority that they do kind of like to talk it out with people. I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but I do know that. So that could be your thing. That's not how I'm like wired. So that's how I thought I was wired. So I'll just provide some examples from my life, and then I do want to touch on the human design piece, because I think that is right there. That's a piece of your puzzle, knowing your inner authority and what it means and how to start practicing using it and start to make decisions in that place. You will be amazed how things shift, and like how opportunities may arise and how things pan out differently than you could have ever imagined when you start honoring your inner authority. So, me, when I was making decisions, I've talked about this in a couple other podcast episodes, but I feel like most of my like teenage is whenever I had a large decision to make, it was always like I was always asking other people's opinions on what I should do, which when you're thinking about that and when you're looking back, you're like, that seems so fucking silly because they're not living my life. I mean, at the end of the day, I am the one who made the decision, and that's going to be doing the thing or not doing the thing or whatever. So like examples would be where to go to college, because that's the thing to do. You got to go to school, then you got to go to college, then you got to get a job, buy a house, get married, have babies, blah, blah, blah. The dream, right? And so, and honestly, this is very real. And I don't know if I've ever actually talked about this, but I wanted to go to college. I really dreamed about going to college out of state, honestly, just to have some different experiences. But one, I think a big thing was like financially, that just wasn't going to happen because out of state tuition is usually a lot more than in-state tuition. And I'm very grateful that I had a lot of help. Well, lots of help from my parents. And I didn't want to burden anyone with, I honestly, this is no shit. This is the truth, and it might make me cry. I'll try not to cry. I chose the college I chose because, well, my cousin was there, so that was kind of comforting to me, knowing that there was somebody already there. And it was the cheapest tuition in the state. And I didn't want to burden anyone with that, or I don't know. I didn't know. I was, what the fuck, 17, 18? when do you actually make that decision? Well, probably before your senior year is over. So you're like talking 17, 18. And I also had a boyfriend who is my now husband, but I was scared to be like too far away from him. Honestly, like looking back, the best thing for me probably would have been to go somewhere by myself, which I was kind of by myself in a way at this school because none of my friends were there. Yeah, my cousin was there, but she was older. I think she was only there 1 year when I was there. Yeah, just my first year. I had no friends that went to that school. I had a roommate from hell the first semester. I vibe with like any of the people really in my dorm except one amazing person, and she was like one of my only friends that I had there. She is the only person from that college I even remotely keep in touch with. I don't talk to anyone from college. And well, I mean, I spent a lot of time at my boyfriend's college and still talk to a lot of those people regularly. But it's just interesting to think about if I would have actually like honored what I wanted to do without really maybe thinking so much of how it affected other people or me staying in my comfort zone. I was also scared. And let's be honest, the transition to college was rough for me. I was ready to get the hell out of high school, but it was weird. I had a very rough first semester. And then it got better. It definitely got better. But just with that, and then when it came to jobs, I was very heavily like, oh my gosh, like what should I do? Should I do this thing? Should I work here? Blah blah blah. And always just looking outward for decisions. And when I finally made the decision to leave corporate America, because I've just like I didn't know on like the level I do now, but how it really that kind of structure just really isn't for me. But I mean, it makes sense. Looking back, I just knew I was unhappy. I didn't want to be there. Oh my gosh, I cannot sit still for 8 hours a day. Not that you were like chained to your desk or anything, but to me it felt like that. I just can't, yeah, can't do that. And so I really didn't. I feel like when you start to make decisions for yourself, the people around you sometimes always have an alternate decision, or they have all these kind of opinions. Like, I was like, well, obviously, I talked to my husband about the job thing because that would affect him quite a bit. And I was scared. I remember being scared to talk to my parents about quitting the corporate job, and because, I wanted to go into real estate, and then like and then there's the part of me that didn't talk to anyone about like, oh yeah, I kind of want a spiritual, mystical, awesome business too, but we're going to do one thing at a time here. Like I was still kind of doing that on the side, and to the outside world I was switching for real estate, or I was staying at home with my kids. Like they didn't know what I was doing. And so I mean my parents were very supportive, and other people in my life were like, why would you start doing real estate in the fall? That seems like a slow time and blah blah blah. And like, I mean, like, is there ever a good time to start? Because it's not like you're gonna be selling 15 houses every year your first year or anything. It's probably not gonna be, it's gonna be a little bit scary at first, and it's gonna be different. Fuck, the transition was scary and different. But that's one of the big decisions that I made that, I mean, ultimately I made it for myself, and I didn't care as much of what other people thought about it, or, it doesn't really, what I do on a day-to-day basis really doesn't affect like my friends and family. I mean, the real estate thing is like, oh yeah, I can help you with real estate if you have any wants or needs that way. But it's like, jobs are funny because I think about, and even when I started aligned with Kayleen, it was Midwest Manifesting Mama, blah, 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 Midwest Manifesting Mama. And I had a couple friends that asked about it, and I don't know, everyone was just kind of weird at first. And people don't get it, and that's fine. I feel like I've accepted the fact that I am very different from my friends and family, and that's okay. That I think that goes a little bit along with loving yourself, and that really helps me to not people please anymore. I don't give a shit what you think about what I'm doing, but I'm happy and I am, helping others, and I get to be an amazing mom when I'm in this place, and I just get to live life. And just because you think that working hard sitting at a desk all day is what somebody needs to be do to be successful, like you've got a very limited perspective of the world. And just open yourself up to all these opportunities. This is so cool. I was like, I have no words again for just like, we're here. You're here for a reason. You're listening to this podcast. You are an intuitive, magical human being. I know this because you're interested in this stuff too. Once you start to honor, this is who I am authentically. This is what I want to do. This is what makes me happy. I think your life really starts to come together more beautifully, and there's more flow, abundance, ease, alignment. And let me tell you, I mean, I'm not 100% there yet. I mean, will you ever be 100%? I don't know. I don't know. I think there's always things and challenges and lessons and things to work on, but I can say that I am in a completely different place than I was 2, 3 years ago. And I am much happier and much more aligned with what I do. And I honor how I make decisions and really just stick with it. So I hope that, I've given you some little tidbits to think about. And if you're interested in learning, your inner authority, one, yes, you can look it up on the internet very easily. I am having a little mini podcast reading basically of yourself. And that's one of the things in there. I talk about yourself, like you, and how to align your energy to, yeah, feel more of that abundance and flow and just like ease in your life, like start to live how you were meant to, how your blueprint is made up. That's something we talk about in there. And I will give you action steps or things you can do to start aligning with how you are meant to make decisions. And it's really cool to see how things shift once you make decisions from your most aligned self and authentic self. So I will leave that information in the show notes. Again, thank you for listening, keeping these short and sweet for these mini episodes this July. Here's your friendly reminder to keep romanticizing your life. Have fun. Have fun this July. Have fun all the time, but enjoy the summer. Enjoy that sun. Soak it all in and have a magical rest of your day.